Welcome back, Redeemers. Thank you for joining us again. My name is Curtis.
I'm Nick.
And today we're continuing the Indigo album, RM of BTS, Change Part 2.
All right.
Second half of the album. Let's see what we got.
Let's see if we get any change.
Things change, people change, everything change.
A lot of change. Oh, that electric synth.
People change, everything change. Life change, friends change, everyone change. Yeah, it is no strange.
It's like electric punk.
That's the world
Synthy feel to it.
I can't believe I loved you once. Fool me once and fool me twice. Shame on you, yeah, shame on me. Think I lost my sanity. Chemistry, we had for sure. Gradually, we wanted more. They say, oh, can't fix someone. Things you got, one fits you right. Fuck my enemies years ago. I won't take for nothing anymore. Fuck that weak, you fuck all those foes. What is strange, I don't know this for. Change, people change, everything change. Things change, people change, everything change. Yeah. Love change, friends change, everyone change. No, it's no strange. That's the world shade. Yeah. You gotta admit it. Don't you get it still? Someday a great grief will come for you. Yeah. And then you're not tough. You can't love someone like I do. That's all I can say to you.
Damn, heartbreak.
Damn.
Heartbreak song.
It's crazy though. The song's called Change and shit. Ironically, the production changed.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward with some of this. A lot of the basically fuck my old interviews, fuck how I used to feel about certain things. Everything changes. People change. Times changes. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm on some new shit. It's almost kind of like the vibe and the feel you got of everything. Just another beat switch up and another vibe change, ironically too. Kind of more I want to say the first electronic kind of sound we've heard on here.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's very much given like punk. I want to say like I'm trying to think of a good fusion and shit like that because it's at a nice tempo too. It was different. And then turned into this like a jazzy, like classy vibe.
Yeah.
That is the biggest juxtaposed like change ever to go from like a cyberpunk club kind of guitarish sound to a jazz bar like flow. But somehow it worked and shit. The melody and the cadence and everything kind of flowed right into that sound. It didn't feel forced at all. This was cool. This was more of a vibe than anything to me.
Yeah, I see.
Just because I think everything is kind of very straightforward as far as like his approach and like what he's saying. Definitely a switch up on the album so far, like kind of one of the more drastic switch ups. But this was cool.
No, I like this too, and it's like ironically, and I felt like the sort of synth kind of electronic beat in the first half of the song. I almost thought those were like more representative of like inner thoughts, and then like the classical kind of approach was more of the outer approach to it.
Okay.
Or that it was something like like this going on in your head, but then kind of like how you carry it seemingly, or rather perhaps that it was if it's not like inner voice or anything like that, like something to kind of implicate that. I don't know. It kind of felt like it was like that sort of vibe for me, at least because it was such a juxtaposition. I mean, clearly the title being changed, but it was the idea that you kept it electronic, but then almost on the polar opposite end of the spectrum was like more, as you say, like classical and jazzy. You know, but I almost thought with that production change that the lyrics would have been a little bit more healed, or like, you know, kind of, but they're still on the same type of time as the original production, which is kind of why I'm a little hesitant to say if it was Inner Thoughts or not. I mean, I believe it was Inner Thoughts on the first half, but then the second half would be, I guess, the way you kind of carry it outwards at least. But I like that production as far as like, you know, what it entails story-wise.
Kurt, it might have been one of those things where sometimes I call it like head versus heart flow, where your heart is a little bit more I don't want to say edgy, but sometimes a little bit more what's the words escaping me? A little bit more raw, but almost more almost like fuck that, fuck this, where your head is more so like, you know what, it's you know what, you got it. It is fuck this, but it's not as
I know what you mean. I mean, there's a reason the phrase is close to the chest. I mean, because it's, you know, it hits the feels.
Because I think you really kind of did just hit like the whole. That first part definitely feels a lot more. I swear, like it's one word I want to use, and I can't fucking like hit it. It's a lot more like a little bit more hurt, if anything, with the whole first part, and then once it switches up to the jazz, it definitely gets a little bit more. If y'all know what I mean, maybe I'm using a weird analogy, but I always call it like heart to head, where it's just like you're a little bit more.
And I think that fits much more in line with kind of the direction of everything. Because honestly, like just touching on a little bit of the lyrics, like I know there's I don't want to say an angst, but
It's an angst,
like a shouting out resentment almost. Yeah, I feel like we're kind of dancing around.
Yeah, but
I know what you mean. But I really, for one, the cadence in his first verse, particularly, like how he was riding the beat, I really like that as well. But I like how he was essentially, when he got to the end of the verses, like chemistry we had for sure, gradually we wanted more, and it's like they say you can't fix someone, seems like you got one fit you right. Essentially, like you can't fix someone true. It's like, but you didn't have to fix me. Like I was right for you.
I was right for you.
You know, we had chemistry. There was something there. Wanted more, but then whatever kind of came to bring that connection to fall apart. And then he kind of you know, goes back to the hook of just, you know, anything really changes, and that's when you get a little bit of the switch up. But I also do like that he follows that up with basically the kind of, you know, fuck the interviews, the Wikipedia and all that shit, all this info that you kind of think you know about me, like all these things that are trying to sum up who I am, my identity, my essence. It's like none of that represents me at all. You know, in the same way that you changed and this love couldn't work out or this connection couldn't work out, I changed as a person too. You know what I mean? I'm not the same person from that time. You know, whether that's a chance to rekindle something, like maybe I've grown, I'm different, you know, maybe you've grown, you're different, or if it's completely segueing from the love side of it and just saying, you know, if you try to sum me up, you know, it's not going to work. You know, in the same way I can't sum you up from back then because you grow, you change just the same. It's to say, like, I've grown, and it's like anyone who kind of, you know, looks at my old interviews or anything, you know, I was in a different headspace. There was different stuff going on. And honestly, anything pre-pandemic, you could say everyone was a different person because we had to reassess so much about life through that. But then it's like factor even outside of it, like even if you just ignored that, it's like, you know, everything that BTS and ARMYs particularly had to do, you know, having to go through all those, you know, changes within them. It's like, how can you say that they're the same person? Like they've maintained the same, like, heart. You know, their drive has been the same. You know, their passion, their humility, all those, you know, things that we love about them have remained the same, and honestly probably grown stronger in that iron sharpens iron sort of sense.
And I don't know why, not to cut you off, but to jump on to that too.
Yeah, I
kind of like that, the whole kind of people change, everything changed. I mean, I think he said like that's how the world shaped.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of like this. That's just the world we live in, where like anything could change. And I like you kind of bringing up COVID, to where. Yeah. That it definitely was a reset year for a lot of things because everything changed. And not saying that he particularly was tying that into everything, but we know that COVID changed a lot of things for them, like personally and stuff. So it's regardless, and
the whole
obviously
direction of even the American tours, the Dynamite, the Butter, Permission to Dance, all that, like everything in their direction changed.
And all that to say, because obviously, you know, when people see this, like our reaction and everything is raw, versus some people who may have looked into maybe the lyrics a little bit more or had got more information and everything. Y'all know I love when things are a bit more like objective and kind of just left open to speculation with few things.
Yeah, and ironically, that's what RM seemed to want for the album too.
Unless he's on another Tiny Desk doing more of these, kind of just giving us more like information.
Yeah.
I do like that we kind of can play with certain elements and just kind of elaborate it with this song and just be like, well, maybe he's talking about da 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 da. But I think sometimes people got to understand that is kind of how things are with people in general. Things do change, especially knowing people for years and everything like that. And I do love all the.
It's interesting how. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no, I can still remember my point.
Well, it's interesting how some people will see change as a negative thing, but see growth as a positive thing. When essentially they're synonyms. They're two sides of the same coin. So it's really just kind of how we interpret those things, and just kind of telling anyone else that basically no one has power to really define me but me. So it's like anything you see, and it's like, of course, the way he articulates himself in interviews is amazing and everything, but it's just I might not feel that way, or that might have been based on a very different chapter in my life, and it's just I'm past that. So if like anyone wants to kind of pull up, especially for how incredibly well documented their journeys have been, I don't think you can just flip through the the various videos and pages and interviews and just pull out a random one and be like, this is them.
Because you be an asshole or just dumb because they've had so many changes and iterations within the group themselves. Like the core values and everything are obviously like still the same, but it's just like there's no way, or at least I will hope so, that your 22-year-old self, you're the same person when you're 29. It's just that's kind of not how things work. You done seen more with your with your 7 years, and even the world changes around you. Exactly. So most of the times, if you're not changing, then I don't know what's probably happening around you. Maybe everything around you is changing just to fit for you to stay the same, but it doesn't work like that for a lot of people. But I like all that, and like I said, I like the whole. I had touched on it before, but you touched it again with the whole. Just don't judge me off of interviews. Don't wiki me, which is like don't Google me. Don't take any of that information and kind of paint me as like that's who I am. I'm constantly changing.
That's ultimately kind of like how there's with like printers and everything, like the whole idea of like an original, and if you keep copying the original, it fades gradually as you go across. It's like any iteration of an iteration of an iteration of someone is ultimately fading in the same regard. So I kind of like to kind of keep those in the same way. Even with like arguments or anything, just go into the source. Just talking to kind of whoever or whatever concerns you may have, just knowing that it's not like a through the tunnel kind of aspect, or like it's just healthier, I feel like.
And the song is probably real not indicative on like a lot of probably how he was feeling. It felt like I said, I don't like putting words in people's mouth or just seeing. From what I seen at the Festa, it felt like it was a lot more things he wanted to discuss that he like really didn't.
And there was a big media thing as far as them, basically flipping out, kind of in a sense where their words were misconstrued and twisted. So I absolutely could see the correlation to that as well.
Just one of those things where even them talking about certain changes was taken like the wrong way and everything like that. And not saying that this is like in direct correlation to like just that, but I can just see not like this being a letter to like Army or anybody, because this feels like this might be more towards catered to like haters or something like that. But just that things change sometimes, and it's not like you said. Change doesn't always have to be bad. Some of the best things in life happened off of like changes, whether it's a change of scenery, changing of a job. Imagine one of y'all piece of shit boyfriends that y'all changed, and things just got better. So it's just, and I'm one of those people where change for me sometimes can be scary. I do like a routine, absolutely. But it's just sometimes change isn't always a bad thing.
Absolutely, and change and growth again are just really two sides of the same coin for a large part, depending on of course how it's viewed. But also funny enough, kind of just the ending here, where he's like someday a great grief will come to you, and then you'll know it too. You can't love someone like I do. That's all I'll say to you. And those are literally the last words of the track. Essentially, like, kind of, it feels like it's like you hurt me, and it's like one day you're gonna know what that hurt feels like when someone hurts you, and basically all I can say is you're incapable of loving someone the way that I was showing to have loved you. And just acknowledging honestly the differences in people. He definitely was clearly hurt on this, and I don't know if this is meant to be a direct continuation of the Closer, because you know how he said he wanted to stay at the end, as far as like trying to essentially fall for this person or get them to fall for him or to stay with him, and then I guess this is where things went off the rail, or that relationship or connection fell through in some regards. So I don't know. If it's
karma's
directly.
A bitch, ain't it? So,
Or I'm doing fine. He's doing
I'm
him.
cool now.
Do you?
What young lady was he talking to?
She's somewhere like.
I'm
But
sorry,
no, it's
Junie.
like I mean, I gotta admit, it is sad seeing him hurt, especially just like everything the man's been through, like But all that to say, I mean, that's just me being biased, but I really do like the progression of this album, and I honestly like that this is a separate track from what had gone on, because this could have easily been a third verse or something added to the end of Closer or something, or a notch in that story. But I like that they kept this as its own thing, and I like the juxtaposition between the synth electronic sort of aspects of it and the more classical, jazzy perhaps kind of instrumentation. But again, his ear for production is just extremely fascinating. But yeah, I understand like where it's like there's not necessarily like really too much to kind of break down, but it's again just that almost like a diary where you're just kind of putting those feelings that you had on a page.
We could have an hour conversation about saying
we could.
We could.
Redeemer's like no.
Yeah, no. just because like just the word change in itself, and just discussing a lot of stuff. With BTS, it's been so many changes just with them this year alone. Even just talking about like Jin going to the army and everything is a giant change for the group. So it's just and obviously I'm assuming most of this is just him just talking about himself, not making it BTS centric.
Yeah. But I did think that it was also something that was intentionally left. I don't want to say vague because that implies like a lack of like lyricism or anything like that. But it was left in a way where you could project your own connections and feelings onto that, like, and it does again with the Yun situation where it's like I painted this art, but it's going to be open for anyone for centuries to pick their own feelings as far as what they feel towards it, and especially in the digital age of everything kind of existing forever, that's only going to be more true going forward. So I think it was kind of much in the same vein where it was like I'm telling this for me, it represents this to me, but if someone's able to kind of connect to it on this level and pour their feelings and emotions onto it as well, it makes for a stronger connection.
Yeah, and this is what I meant too, like probably a couple of tracks when I was saying like less is more, in the sense of like him just knowing he picks his punches very well, as far as knowing like what tracks he can be more straightforward on, which tracks he can kind of hit you with more like metaphors, similes, and things like in that nature. This is to me just something, like I said, that is very straightforward, and I mean that respectfully, where it's just like I don't gotta do too much with this in the sense of like things change, people things, everything changes, like just kind of going down with that flow and then kind of getting into it a little bit more. But it's just take that and you decide what you want to do with it, and then him jumping into 2 verses I think on here, or a verse and a half, depending on, I didn't count how many bars he gave for like each one. But like this was cool, this was clean. I'm not sure if this is particularly like a download for me, but this is just another notch in this belt. At this point, I think we about to get 10 just different tracks.
Not for sure. And honestly, it definitely feels representative of the whole 10 Shades of Blue, or the whole Indigo thing, tying back with the Yun painting, which is the opening song of the album. So it definitely seems like a very intentional theme. And just lastly to add, this is the first song, at least up to this point, with no feature. All him.
You about to make me count the shades and shit, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's like my head exploded. It was like, it's 11. Look at how many rocks is on the thing.
So, yo, there's 7.
There's 7 rocks for every BTS member in him.
Can you imagine like it wasn't the case and then someone was like, yo, let me
I gotta get more batteries for
ruin my fun. I was gonna put the light bulb over your head.
Damn. This is decent because now it's only 3 more tracks me and you haven't heard.
That's crazy.
Lonely, Hectic, and number 2 is the last one.
Lonely, Hectic, and number 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking we might wait to have the rest of the panel just to kind of do those 2 and maybe maybe let them catch up on something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm good, man. You good?
Yeah, I'm good. Ironically, this song being one of the features or the lack of features, meaning that he did it all alone. But it's ironic.
Oh yeah, this is a joint with no feature.
The next song is called "Lonely" though, and I know there's 2 on the album that he doesn't have a feature. So I'm curious if these back to back are those.
Yes. Yes.
All right. I see you, RM.
I'll raise you one loan.
Oh hell no! RM will fucking. RM's brain will fucking kill my brain.
Yeah, no, jump in here. Tell us how y'all felt about this track. Tell us if y'all was on the same wavelength as us as far as really putting these up against kind of the Festa and other things that we kind of seen and kind of having those represent changes that kind of happened in his life. And he could be talking about changes earlier on as well in his early 20s. Like everything in the album doesn't have to correlate directly towards like now, because he specifically said one time 26, so that's kind of halfway into his 20s. So just jump in here and tell us how you guys
the Korean age thing too, as far as it, yeah.
Jump in here and tell us how you guys felt about like this track in particular, and just so far what's your favorite like track on the album. Other than that, Army, we love you guys. We'll holla at y'all.
Take
Peace.
care.